Hi, Recovery Girls. I'm Kristin. I want to share a little bit about emotional sobriety with you guys today. Um, when I first started my recovery journey, I was not specifically looking at recovering from an addiction to any particular substance. My initial recovery journey was more recovering from the betrayal of having been married to somebody who had cheated on me and who was addicted to pornography, and recovering from that trauma. And it was also a journey of recovering from my own codependency. So I guess if you had to boil my addiction down, it would be like an addiction to people pleasing, and to worrying about what other people think. So as I progressed on my recovery journey, I started realizing that sometimes I used the intensity of my emotions to get a high. And what I mean by that is, like, sometimes something would happen that was really hurtful or sad, but instead I would find myself getting really angry. And it was almost like that anger gave me a boost and gave me an illusion of power to protect myself, or an illusion of power over other people, to be able to get revenge, even if it was in a passive aggressive way. So as I've progressed in recovery, one of the things that I've really learned to look at is how are my emotions and how am I handling them? So it's not to say that I don't still have strong emotions, but I don't kind of run off the fumes of them, or at least I try not to. However, I would say that I've had a little bit of a relapse in the last week. I've had some really out of control emotional moments. Now, fortunately, it didn't totally come out sideways, and I didn't like really rip into or harm the people that I love. Or did I? That just makes me think, as I'm talking about it, maybe I need to have a talk with my husband about some of the exchanges that we had with each other and possibly make some amends. Um, but, I feel like one of the best antidotes to having really out of control emotional episodes where I kind of lose a sense of emotional sobriety and stability is just having some insight. And a lot of times I need the help of other people, like my sponsor, to gain some of that insight. So the other day, while I was freaking out and I was out walking and it was dark and it was raining and I was in a bad place emotionally, I called my sponsor, and she was able to recognize, just by asking me a really good question, I was able to see, oh my gosh, I see one of the things that this is about. It gave me some self-awareness, which allowed me to get out some of the intense emotions that I was feeling, some of the hurt and anger and pain and fear. And then later that night, I was able to go to my husband and ask him for what I needed. Now, he had a right to say yes or no. And when I first asked him to be there for me and to listen, I did not communicate very clearly how much of a bad spot I was in. I was trying to be really calm and make a request and not a demand. But he didn't understand where I was at, and he said no, that he needed to go to bed. And then it took me a lot of courage, but I restated what was going on with me. I stated it for the first time with him, really, because sometimes I think I can kind of present myself like I'm okay, but really I'm not okay. And my request doesn't need to shift into a demand, but I need to paint a more accurate picture of where I'm really at. Once he realized that I was in a really hard spot emotionally, he was able to enter into my pain and be there for me in a really significant way. And that, along with having my sponsor be there for me and feeling my own feelings, was a huge part of my healing and a huge part of me coming back to a sense of emotional sobriety. So I'm so thankful I'm not on this recovery journey alone. I'm thankful to have you on it with me.